Good evening, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, my guest host extraordinaire once again is Mr. Rich Catino, joining us today for a little bit of Saxon.
Yes, thanks for having me once again. I was looking forward to listening to 22 albums from Saxon to figure it out and get it down to 10.
Yeah.
Total insanity.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I knew which ones I wanted, like right off the bat, but it was like how to what order to put them in, right? I mean, that's like, right. I know I have my absolute favorites and, right. We'll get to that, but it's like, right. The rest is just like, I mean, this band really hasn't put out a bad album, right? It's just, right. It's just like, which ones you like better?
It's one of those bands that it's like a Maiden or a Priest, for the most part, Priest, where there's a lot of consistency and it's hard to pick your favorites.
Yeah, and I think too, the one band that I always draw comparisons to as far as catalogs go, this reminds me of the Motorhead catalog, because it's like, they had a lot of those classic early albums and then they never slowed down. And man, during like the 90s and the 2000s, like every year, every other year, you got a new Saxon album for the most part. Yeah. And it's just like, and if you don't like really keep up, you blink and like you miss like 5 of them and you got to go play catch up. So it's like one of those bands that just like, they're always there and they never slowed down and the albums were always really good. So, for me, like I said, I kind of knew which ones were going to be in my top 10, sort of. There were a few, like some of the latter ones I had to play around with because I'm like, all right, these are a lot of really good, strong late period albums. Like, which ones really speak to me a little bit more, right? So, and I will say, again, we're going to get into it. I don't want to give too much away, but I will say, and I've said it before on the show, Saxon is one of those bands that has got better with age.
They have. And I was going to mention that when you said that, when you're talking about Motorhead, because if I remember your albums, I think you did with Martin, correct? Or you talked about Motorhead with Martin?
We talked about, we did. Yep.
So he likes the latter career of Motorhead, I think, better than the earlier some of it, right?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly?
Yeah.
So it's the same way with Saxon, because I think their newer stuff, even the middle period, there's a couple albums that is as strong, if not better, than the early part. Because I think the earlier part of the catalog, even though you got 4 classic albums in a row, I think there's select songs on there that are just mediocre anyway.
Yeah, well, it's hard, right? Because if you grew up on the stuff and each of those classic albums you're talking about have like 5 legendary songs, they're going to rank up there pretty high regardless, just because you have that long history with it and it's got those classic songs. But I will say this band, beginning of the career and the latter part of the career, pretty damn stellar. And, for people who kind of stop listening, say they're big Saxon fans, but really stop listening in like 87, man, you're missing out on a lot of stuff.
You're just not a big Saxon fan. You're a Saxon fan of old.
They've just been cranking it out on some of these recent albums. So anyway, we're getting so far ahead of ourselves here. So Rich wanted to make a correction from the Halloween show.
Yes, because we're huge Halloween fans, and I can't believe I fucked up. And I said that Kai was still in the band for Pink Bubbles, but he was already out. They had Heading for Tomorrow and Sigh No More in 90 and 91. I totally forgot that Roland Grappow was in the video for, what was the single from Pink Bubbles? Kids of the Century.
Yes, yep.
So
Kai was already doing the gamma ray thing, right? He was.
I have my fang face mask in the house for my proof that I am a diehard gamma ray fan. Try and find that mask today.
Good luck, right?
Here's my correction. I'm good now.
All right.
I'm straight with your fans, right?
All right, there you go. Yep, everybody's cool now.
I redeemed myself. I feel so much better now.
See that? You cleared your conscience? All right, we're good.
I can sleep now.
All right, cool. So with that done now, with that little business taken care of, so what we've done, like we said, is we've decided to trim down this Saxon ranking to our 10 favorites. Sometimes you got to do it when you got these big, long catalogs, right? It's just, I've tackled some 20 plus album catalogs before, and it's not an easy thing. So a lot of times we're hitting like 20, 25 or more. I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to throw out my 10 favorites. There's a lot of great ones. And at least, you know the ones that really, really rank up there. Because we got a lot of people who are like, I kind of like Saxon. I have an album or 2 or 3. I don't know anything about the rest of them. So help me out which way to go, right? And that's what something like this.
I will say though, I think that there's about 3, 4 albums that they have that are just they're a little inferior to the other ones.
Yeah, those like real late 90s, late 80s, early 90s. They kind of went through a little period up until about 95 or so, something like that.
I don't know. We'll see how our albums come.
Yeah,
we'll figure that out there. But yeah, there's a few there that I didn't even really need to listen to again because I remember that I revisited them, but I just remember that they weren't as strong. And I was right.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. All right. So Rich and I are going to count down each from number 10 down to number 1, and always I'm going to have Rich kick us off with his number 10.
Cool. Thanks. So it's tough with Saxon because their earlier stuff, even though there's so many classic songs, the recording wasn't the greatest on those albums either. So listening to them, it's not, I don't know, I enjoy listening to actually the versions that are on the Heavy Metal Thunder re-recordings, which polished up a lot of the songs nicely.
Yeah, they're a little beefed up a bit. Yeah.
Yes. So, and then those albums also, like we were talking before, they have a little bit of average songs too. They're not as strong as the other songs that show up on them. So, and I like latter period Saxon as well, as much as their older stuff. So with that, my 10 is Strong Arm of the Law.
Wow, that's pretty low. Well, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It's in my 10. I really like Heavy Metal Thunder, To Hell and Back Again, the title track, 20,000 Feet, Hungry Years, Dallas 1 p.m. I mean, that's more than half the songs, and there's 8 songs.
Yeah.
So that's in my 10, but not one of my favorites. But it's something I go back to regularly, so I think that's why I put it in my 10.
There you go. Cool. Well, as long as it's up there, I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right, my number 10. I'm going to go with Lionheart from 2004.
How dare you?
How dare I? How dare I put it in there? Or how dare it's number 10?
How dare it's only number 10? My goodness.
That's a great album, but like I said, everything on this list is great. Definitely great. Kick-ass songs on here. You got Witchfinder General, which is killer. Title track is great. Beyond the Grave is excellent. English Man of War. I mean, Man and Machine, just good. Mm-hmm. Classic sounding Saxon. You got, Charlie Bauerfeind, who's, produced so many of their albums, I think, doing another really stellar job on this. And probably could rank higher. Like I said, this list is tough because everything in my top 10 I love a lot, and it's just a matter of where you put it today, right? And I actually consider placing this higher than another one, which I think is going to rank really high on yours. And I knew you were going to give me shit for that one, so I'm going to get it from one of them, right? So, so there you have it. So that's my number 10, kicking us off.
Cool. I'm glad it's in your 10.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? It's got to be.
Yeah. So my 9 is Solid Ball of Rock from '91. So I picked that one because that was a nice rebound from Rock the Nations and Destiny, which I really didn't like those two. A couple songs on each of them, but that's about it. But this was it was a, pun intended, a solid rebound. The title track is awesome. Altar of the Gods, Requiem has a really good melody. Light Up the Sky is cool. Baptism of Fire. The overture is nice. Crash Drive is cool too. It's got a good groove to it. I thought it was a great rebound, and I go back to this album pretty regularly.
It is, and this is going to be one of those instances where you can only fit 10 in the top 10, right? And there's going to be some that are just sitting outside of it. So I won't say anything else. What I will say is you're probably the only person other than myself who has a freaking Moon Knight T-shirt.
Nice.
And if I would have known you were wearing that, I would have worn mine. And boy, would that have been a tandem, right? Because mine looks totally different than yours.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
See that for those of you who are watching who are wondering, why I'm getting so excited about a comic book T-shirts, comic book character T-shirt. You may or may not know I do have a second YouTube channel called Comic Book Geezers, so go check that out over here. All we talk about is classic comics and from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So anyway, just check that out. Comic book.
They're pulling in Moon Knight into the Marvel universe, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why now if you go to buy those old Moon Knight issues from the early 80s, they're rising in price right now.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where he gets pulled into with, I hope, with like Blade and Morbius and all those guys.
Well, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right.
We shall see. We shall see.
It's another topic.
Yeah, exactly. All right, back to Saxon. So I'm going to go with my number 9 to one of Rich's favorites here, 1985's "Innocence Is No Excuse."
How did you know?
Because I know we talked about it once before.
I forgot. I can't tell you where it shows up. I'm like, you can't let the cat out of the bag. But wow, that's a good poll there. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I like this album, and I remember, this is kind of a weird one because I think by this time. This is 85. I think Saxon's popularity here in the States starting to wane a little bit. I think they had really big hopes for this album, and this album is more of like an American sounding metal album, I think, but for whatever reason, the general public didn't really latch onto it, but some really good songs on here. Again, it's maybe a little more commercial sounding. I think Crusader kind of started that a little bit, but you got, Devil Rides Out is a great song. I love Broken Heroes, which they made a video for, and they were hoping that would be their big anthem that would become popular here. Rockin' Again is kind of fun. Call the Wild is good. Back on the Streets, Raise Some Hell is good. Everybody Up is kind of a fun song, right? But I think it's decent. It's got some, like I said, memorable songs, good musicianship as always. I don't think the front cover helped them out at all. It's not a very metal looking album cover, right? I mean, no, she's cute and everything like that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
but a good album. I dig it. Like I said, I could have put Lionheart over this. Actually, the thing is, sometimes when you have a lot of history with an album, it's hard to put it lower on a list. And I bought this at the record shop when it came out, and I listened to this a ton back in 85, and that was like more years ago than I would care to admit, but so I like it. I think it's a really good album. I like most of their 80s stuff.
It's got great hooks, and you can't
it does.
You can't deny a great hook.
Yep, that's true. All right, back to you.
8 is Battering Ram from 2015.
Yeah, that's a great album.
Yes. And I really like Sacrifice, and I was fighting it between the two of them because they're kind of similar, but they're not. Because they have that heavier, ballsier edge to it. And it's what they were doing. It kind of carries over from the previous couple albums, too. And then this one, though, I thought has a little more variety to it. Sacrifice is pretty heavy. So this got, the title track is great. Devil's Footprint, Queen of Hearts I really like, Eye of the Storm, Stand Your Ground, Kingdom of the Cross. I think it's got just more of the older Saxon things with the melodies and the harmonies, but it's still heavy like Sacrifice. So I had to pick that over Sacrifice, but both of them, it's really tough between the two.
I agree. I mean, well, my number, what are we at? Number 8, right?
8, yeah.
My number 8 is Sacrifice. I mean, it's a kick-ass album, and I think that, a few people have noticed this. In fact, I had a whole conversation with Martin Popoff about this. How the recent couple, all produced by Andy Sneap, have a very similar sound to them. But I mean, that's Andy Sneap's trademark, right? You listen to anything he produces, he touches, they kind of have a similar sound. And great this album, it's huge guitars, right? Just big, bright, crushing production techniques. And but it comes down to the songs, right? And I think Sacrifice and Warriors in the Road, Guardians of the Tomb, Stand Up and Fight. I mean, Night of the Wolf, just absolutely killer songs, right? Just killer songs. And I love the guitar sound on this album. I mean, it's absolutely crunchy as all hell. And that's what you get on these last handful of Saxon albums. And definitely.
And the one before it too, Call to Arms. But Call to Arms isn't quite as heavy as, but it's not as quite as heavy as Sacrifice, but it's got that crunch too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think you could arguably say, and I don't think anybody would take offense at this. I think Saxon are a heavier band today than they were in the early mid '80s.
Yeah.
Whether they
Yes.
attempted to do that or not, it's not that those early songs aren't heavy,
Yeah.
but there's just like, I don't know, something about what they've been
Yeah.
doing in the 2000s. It's just like, it's kicking things up a notch, right? So
Technology, production, mix, amps, guitars, the
yeah,
whole deal, probably.
yeah. Well, even you see them live though. I mean,
Yeah.
they still bring it live big time. So
Yeah.
yeah. So my number 8 is Sacrifice. So
Awesome. All right. Number 7, going back to 2001 for Killing Ground.
well, that's a good one. All right, I didn't expect that
Yeah.
one. Cool.
I'm all over the place. I'm back and forth from decade to decade because they have, like we were saying, there's so many great albums and there's so much
there is.
consistency. You know, it's hard to pick. So I love the title track. Great King Crimson cover of Court of the Crimson King, which I'm sure you're a fan of, right?
Yep. Yep.
Coming Home, Hell Freezes Over. Dragon's Lair is a total classic.
Yeah, Dragon's Lair is great.
So good. Deeds of Glory is really cool. I went back and revisited that one. That's very nice. Shadows of the Wall 2 is really cool. That's a 6-minute song. It's another one. It's got 12 songs with an intro, but again, 12 with the bonus track. So it's 11 on the standard version. But yeah, another one, enjoyable and solid all the way through. I really don't skip anything.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's most of them are like that. And that's the good thing about these guys. Again, it makes it challenging doing a list like this, but I think it's a testament to the band. Yeah. So, yeah.
And it also proves the fact that you can't say that they haven't done anything good since the 80s. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do want to throw out there, because we haven't mentioned it yet, Biff Byford sounds just as good today as he did way back then.
Hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
All right. My number 7, one you already had on your list, a little battering ram from 2015. I listened to this so much when it came out. In fact, I'm almost positive this was like a top 10 album of the year for me back in 2015. How about, that title track is great. Devil's Footprint, Destroyer is kick-ass. Eye of the Storm, Top of the World. Kingdom of the Cross. The whole thing is just 45 minutes of kick-ass British metal, right? As only Saxon can do it. And I always really liked that album cover too. And
very
Saxon,
strong. Yeah, very strong cover.
And how about these great, I haven't even touched on it, but how about these great like digibooks that these guys do?
Oh yeah. I got the same one for Sacrifice here too.
Yeah, and I got my Lionheart is that as well. It's like, I love these releases. They're just completely awesome.
Yep. I know.
Awesome. So, all right. So that was my number 7. Back to you.
Cool. Number 6. This was tough, but I had to flip them. I flipped them last minute. Going with Unleash the Beast.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. That's another strong one. Yep.
Love this album. This is another one going back to an album that's like a rebound album. Let me see. When did this one come out? 97, right? So before this was Forever Free in 92 and Dogs of War in 95. Dogs of War was okay. Title track is cool. But Forever Free, I maybe listened to 1 or 2 songs on that album. So this one, Unleash the Beast, came out. This was just balls heavy. Just totally kicked ass, killer. All great songs. It was heavy, but it wasn't too heavy. Title track, Terminal Velocity, is really catchy. The Thin Red Line, Ministry of Fools, is very catchy. The Preacher and Bloodletter are really heavy. Cut Out the Disease, All Hell Breaking Loose, really solid all the way through. And it's really them, coming back after, I think, 2 albums that were kind of mediocre.
Yeah. And this is a time period where, Saxon's albums are not as easy to find here in the States. They're not really touring here in the States. A lot of that kind of European, classic metal and power metal is like non-existent here because people here in this country listen to new metal and all this other nonsense, right? And it wasn't until probably like the mid 2000s where all of a sudden, like, wow, Saxon's still out there playing. Yes, they never stopped, right?
I think when's the first time they came back here? Because I never saw them for Dogs of War or Unleash the Beast or Metalhead or any of those albums up to maybe Into Labyrinth, maybe, or in The Inner Sanctum from 2007.
It was yeah. It wasn't Lionheart, I can tell you that much. So it was either Inner Sanctum or Into the Labyrinth
when they came back.
Yeah, when they came back, and then they started, especially by Sacrifice,
Yes.
and I think even Call to Arms, they were starting to come back basically every tour, or if not
Right.
every tour, every other tour. Yeah.
So Unleash the Beast was totally under the radar unless you were really paying attention.
Yeah, there was like a string of 5 albums where it's like you if you lived here in the States and you really weren't paying close attention, it's almost like Saxon wasn't happening at all.
I know.
But and they never stopped. Like I said, it's like
no. I bought it the year it came out. I remember getting it. So
support those imports, right? That's what we had to do back in the day.
I could have cared less what trend was coming through that decade. If I liked it, I liked it. I bought it. Didn't matter.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
All right. What are we at? Number 6, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to go with, and what year was this here? This was 1984. Again, another one of those releases that maybe to a lot of, to some fans, this was kind of a slip in the wrong direction. But Crusader, I mean, it's not as heavy as a lot of the other albums we're talking about.
Yeah.
I played this to death. It's got Just Let Me Rock. The title track is killer.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
You got, there's some stuff. I mean, the Set Me Free cover is kind of cool, but I would have rather heard another original. A little bit of What You Fancy is kind of like, do I even want to call it move in the direction of kind of hair metal-y type of stuff. Sailing to America is kind of cool. Bad Boys, whatever. But, Run for Your Lives is killer. I love Rock City. Do It All for You is actually a really cool tune. I just, what it is? Again, one of those albums where you have a lot of history with, and you just, it like the back of your hand.
Yeah.
Could have ranked a little bit lower, possibly, but it's so hard to put together a list like this. I knew it had to be in my top 10.
Okay.
It's just a matter of where it would would finish up. And I played this all the time back in the day.
It's weird because I bought that when it first came out on vinyl too, and I think I enjoyed it when it came out. But over time, it hasn't aged well with me.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
I probably don't like it as much as I did back then. I still like it a lot though.
Okay.
So it's got to be on here.
I hear you. Okay, number 5. So number 5 is bumping your number 6 because I picked Innocence, the one that's right next to it, just like you did Sacrifice and I picked Battering Ram.
Yep.
So love Innocence. It's one of my favorites. Definitely my top 5. Even though, like you said, the cover's not that great.
Yeah.
But I like it because it's got the elements from the second, third, and fourth albums on, like, Everybody Up, Gonna Shout, Raise Some Hell, those kind of new wave of British heavy metal anthem type songs.
Yep.
And it gets into a little bit of the more melodic hard rock metal of the 80s. I'm not going to call it hair metal because it's not hair metal. Everybody had hair in the 80s. Everybody had big hair.
It should have been called big hair metal is what it should have been called, right?
It's either glam, if you dressed up glammy, or it's hard rock metal because it was hard rock with a metal edge.
Well, here's the problem. It's like because glam was something completely different in the 70s. So you really can't call it glam. I don't know what you call it, lipstick metal. I don't know. I personally, I never liked the hair metal term, and Martin Popoff and I have talked about this endlessly over the last couple of months.
Never did either.
I never, it should have been called something else, but I think at this point in time, it's been called that for decades, and it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing anymore. Some people do. Some people say it in a detrimental way, but for me, it's just like it's 80s commercial hard rock and metal. That's really all it is.
That's what it is. Yeah. Yep. But and that's where they were going on this album. That's why I like it. So Back on the Streets, Rockin' Again, Call the Wild, Devil Rides Out, Rock and Roll Gypsy, and Broken Heroes. You got those big hooks with the great melodic riff and the melodies and the harmonies. It's a total winner for me. You got a little bit of the past and a little bit of what was happening in America at the time. So that's why it makes my top 5. It's a favorite for me.
Yep. I hear you. I always tend to look at Crusader and Innocence kind of, they're like a package deal almost, because I think both albums, we're seeing them moving into a little more melodic and accessible songs, and not that that's a bad thing. And I think they really wanted the band to break big here in North America with those two albums. I think Crusader did a little bit of that, but then for whatever reason with Innocence, it didn't really happen. So I think, both albums, some hardcore fans think that those albums are a little light. I think they're both still really good for what
they are.
And I think they're both classic Saxon albums.
Raise Some Hell and Everybody Up and Devil Rides Out and Call the Wild are pretty hard rocking, heavy riffs. They're not light.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see it. I just think it's a good balance of heaviness and the melody.
Yep. I hear you. You're preaching to the choir. I totally agree with you. All right. My number, where are we at? 5? Yeah, 5. I have not stopped listening to this one since it came out 2 years ago. And the fact that it's ranking pretty high says a lot. Thunderbolt from 2018, my number 5.
You went 3 in a row, huh?
Yeah.
3 albums right in a row. Good for you.
Yeah. I totally love this album. And, seeing them on this tour, playing, almost half the album really kind of cemented home just how good this album is. You got the title track is killer. Nosferatu is great. Their tribute to Motorhead, they played Rock and Roll, is fantastic. You got Sons of Odin, which is big and epic sounding. Wizard's Tale, Roadie song. I mean, The Secret of Flight. So many great songs on here. And again, it's got that big, tremendous Andy Sneap production, and Biff sounds amazing on this album. It sounds like a band that's like 30 years old, right? They're still hungry, and they're all older than me. So it's like, I mean, this is, again, 2018, this was another top 10 release for me of the year, and just more proof that this band just keeps going strong, and there's no letting up there at all. So
especially because you picked those 3 albums right in a row. They're the most recent ones.
Yep. So I love them. I mean, I listen to them constantly.
That's awesome. If I didn't try and balance mine out between all the decades that they put out an album, I probably would have put all 3 of those in there too. But I was trying to be, trying to represent a little bit of everything too. It's tough.
It is tough. Yeah, it's tough. So do you go for your heart? What your heart's telling you, and your head's telling you, or do you go and try and spread it all around? Because I've done both. It's hard to do this kind of type of thing. It really is. And some people are going to say, oh, you guys should have just ranked the whole catalog. It's like, well, we can do that, but then the people who love all the later stuff will complain that some of those later albums are down at the bottom. It's like, you know what? It's like you can't win no matter what you do. But I think here it's like, we know what we love, we know what we like, and everybody else is free to rank these how they like them. So that's the beauty of this whole thing. So.
True.
All right, what are we? Number 4. What do you got?
4. Going with 1999's Metalhead. Another awesome heavy album, but not too heavy. And I love that artwork too. Do you have? I don't have the CD with me. Do you have it?
I don't know. No.
But it's great with that stone statue on the cover.
Most of their album covers are pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Most of them, not all of them. The Innocence of No Excuse album notwithstanding, most of these other album covers are pretty damn good.
But I love, anytime I do a Saxon playlist, Metalhead, the title track, Are We Travelers in Time, Son of Evil, Prisoner has such a great melody in it. Those songs are always in my playlists. So almost half the album is in a Saxon playlist every time I make one. So it's a solid, another great album. Sea of Life I also recommend. All Guns Blazing is cool too.
Yeah, All Guns Blazing is great.
And Conquistador too. Another couple favorites. But 11 songs, and 11 with the intro. And I don't really skip anything either. Another one of those albums.
There you go.
Yeah,
we should have counted.
And it's 1999, 2 years after Unleash the Beast.
That's
like
right,
you said, a tough decade for traditional heavy metal. But as you can see, Saxon didn't give a fucking weight behind it.
Yeah, that's right. cliche title or not, right? Did you ever like? I've never done it, but if we were to go through their discography, how many song titles do they have with metal in it, right? I'm sure
Good question.
it's probably them or Primal Fear, probably the two that have used it the most, I would think.
Primal Fear, I think, did a little too much.
Probably.
As much as I love Primal Fear, they definitely beat a dead horse.
Yeah. We love them anyway, right? So.
Yes, we do. Yep.
All right, I'm going to go with my number 4, Strong Arm of the Law.
Okay.
I mean, for me, we're coming up on these classics, and I'm probably
same here.
I'm showing my age here, but you know what? In 1980 and 81 and 82, 83, 84, I was listening to a lot of Saxon, and I actually, I saw them shortly after this album came out.
Nice.
They first started playing. So here we got, Heavy Metal Thunder, right? Speaking of metal, right? So you got that. Strong Arm of the Law, 20,000 Feet, Dallas 1 p.m. To Hell and Back Again is great. Hungry Years is great. So it's just a really strong album with a lot of classics on here, a lot of mandatory Saxon classics. You're right, though. Could you imagine, like, if these albums had similar production to some of the more recent ones? I mean, they went and redid some of these songs. You kind of hear it like that. But, again, these albums probably could have been heavier. Pretty heavy for the time, though, I think. But it was more like these songs were just fast and riffy and really catchy, whereas now the stuff is just really heavy. So, but classic songwriting, man. You could arguably say when you look back on the new wave of British heavy metal and you look at those kind of upper echelon bands, like, Maiden and Def Leppard and Diamond Head and Angel Witch and so on. Other than Maiden, I think Saxon's like got to be right behind them.
They have to. They have to. Even though they didn't get the mainstream success and the household name success, musically, absolutely.
Yeah, just classics of that little subgenre of metal.
Yeah.
So,
is that that CD you have there? Is that one of the remastered versions?
This I don't know if I picked this up. It's the box set.
And how because I don't have all the remasters from the earlier albums, so is there really a sonic difference, do you think?
Nah, not really, but every disc comes with a shitload of bonus material.
Okay.
There's all these like live cuts, and I mean literally every album that's in this collection, and this is the first album all the way to what do you call it? Destiny. So everything. Even cool. And everyone's got like 5 to 10 bonus tracks on it. It's if you can track it's hard to find though. I looked long and hard for this because it went out of print pretty quickly. But they sound fine. Are these albums ever going to sound great sonically? I don't know. So, but a great album nonetheless.
Good point. Okay, number 3, right? Yep. Top 3. Going with The Power and the Glory from '83. I definitely remember buying this in '83 when I was a kid, early teenager. I think there was a video on MTV too, right? For Power and the Glory, they had a video.
Yeah, was it that or was it for
a live clip, right?
I believe so.
And then there was Nightmare also. That was a video too.
Yeah. I think it was for Power. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
it's going back a ways. Yeah,
I think Power was the title track was a live clip, and then Nightmare was the video itself.
Great song.
But I like this one. It's in my top 3 because it's got a better sound to it too. The first couple albums don't have such a great mix and production to it.
Yeah.
The songs are, I enjoy several of them. And then like a couple of them I could do without. I don't think they're as strong. But this one, the title track, Redline, Warrior, This Town Rocks, Midas Touch, and then their infamous or famous title for their live albums, The Eagle Has Landed 2 is on here, which is
That's a great song.
Yeah. And this is another short. They had short albums too. There was only 8 songs on this.
I know. I don't think any of those early albums were longer than 35 minutes or thereabouts. Yeah. Very.
But I thought this one's pretty consistent going all the way through.
Yeah, and it's definitely heavier from a production standpoint.
It's got a great sound to it.
Yeah, It does. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Awesome.
But before we do, we're going to go to 1980s because they released two in the same year. Wheels
Yeah.
of Steel.
Yeah.
Right. So this is their second album. And for me, I mean, not that I dislike the first album, but you listen to that and you listen to this, and there's a big difference there. It's like this band in the span of like, a year, like grew up overnight. And, some just drop dead classics on this, Motorcycle Man, 747, Wheels of Steel, Susie Hold On, Machine Gun is just absolutely legendary. Street Fighting Gang, Stand Up and Be Counted. It's just such a classic album. And again, arguably some of these songs sounded better on the live album.
Oh yeah.
And it's another one of those instances where, you had a classic live album from a classic metal band where they went and put out a live album where they even kind of took these great songs to like new heights, right? So
yeah, it's like Kiss with the live 1 and 2.
Yeah, and like Unleashed in the East and Tokyo Tapes and all those, Strangers in the Night by UFO. I mean, great songs that all of a sudden on that live album sound even better.
Yeah, brings them to life.
Could you imagine if that Saxon live album, Eagle Has Landed, was a double?
Yeah.
What could have been, right? What could have been? It's great as it is, but man.
Yeah. But when you mention the first album, I always think of the first album like the first Scorpions album or the first Judas Priest album.
Exactly. Yep.
It's
exactly.
that starting
It's not
point
bad.
there.
It's definitely different. Yep.
It's different. They're finding their feet. They haven't gotten into their groove yet. They're trying things out. So it's very cool for what it is.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Yeah, I never ranked it very high, but it's as a cool early thing for the band to kind of see like where they were coming from originally. It's definitely cool.
Everybody's got to start somewhere, So
yeah, you have to. Yeah.
It's I guess not everybody gets that formula down, kind of like Iron Maiden did. Even though the first Iron Maiden isn't the best mixed or produced sounding album, it's not Killers, but still they got the songs down and they got what Maiden was about on the first try.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yep. All right. Number 2, 2004's Lionheart.
Wow. Okay, cool. It's a great album. It's a great album.
I love this album. Witchfinder General, Man and Machine, the title track is so epic. I love Beyond the Grave. It's nice and moody. Justice, English Man of War, Searching for Atlantis is so cool. Such a cool melody. 11 songs. No intros or anything.
None needed.
Oh, wait, there's a short, they have 2 little intros in between, The Return and Jack Tars.
Yeah.
So it's kind of 8 songs, but those 8 songs themselves, but the interludes that go in between, I think it just works with the flow of the album. So I always found this like one of their perfect albums.
It's great. And for me, I think Lionheart really signaled either to the band or this was their statement to the world, because at this time, like power metal is starting to become really big internationally. Yeah. And I think it's with that album where Saxon said, you know what? We're a freaking power metal band. We always have been, and we're going to compete on that scene, and we're going to do this thing better than anybody else. Because that's really what they always kind of have been when you look at it. But I think that there's like a little bit shift in their music to more big, bombastic, heavier material. Yes. And it kind of started there. And
a little bit of the orchestrations too.
Yes. Yep.
But before that, they were so in their groove though, because before that, you got Unleash the Beast in 97, Metalhead in 99, The Killing Ground in 2001, and then Lionheart was 2004. Yeah. So they were just killing it for 4 albums in a row.
Yep. Another good stretch, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, my number 2, Power and the Glory.
Mm-hmm.
Could have even been number 1.
Yeah.
Another one of those covers. I love the logo. It's big.
Do we know the reason? But do we know what's going on with that cover? Did you ever find that out?
No, I have no clue. I don't know. I never liked it much. It's just and they kind of I don't know. I like the logo. It's really colorful.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just kind of cheesy, considering
Mhm.
the cool ones that came before it, right? Which were kind of
Yeah.
simple but still really neat. But a great
Very,
album,
yeah.
and like we talked about, killer production on
Mhm.
this, and Nightmare Warrior, man, Redline is great. Title track is great. Eagle Has Landed is great. Midas Touch. Does this town know how to rock? You better believe
Yeah.
it does. But yeah, it's great stuff. And that original band was pretty happening.
Yes.
But they've proven that this current lineup is just as kick-ass, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so
Don't
that's my
judge
number.
don't judge a metal band just on their past. Can't do
No,
that.
you can't do it.
You
Can't do
cannot
it.
do that. It's a crime against metal.
Yep. All right, drum roll for number one.
Okay. Going with Denim and Leather from 1981.
Ditto.
Love it. Princess of the Night is probably my all-time favorite Saxon song. And what a killer opener for the album, too. Never Surrender, Out of Control, Rough and Ready, Play It Loud, and the band's played on as a classic. The title track is a classic. And I really dig Midnight Rider and Fire in the Sky, too.
And Fire in the Sky kills on the live album as well, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. This album is like Power and the Glory for me. I don't think there's really anything wrong with it.
No, there's not a bad track on here. I dig this a
Yeah.
lot. And, a lot of people look at those first three albums kind of similarly because, they basically all came out boom,
Right.
boom, 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 one after another. And they contain all those classic early tracks. But I always felt that this one was a little more consistent start to finish.
Yeah.
Which is why I've always rated a little bit higher than the other two.
Mhm.
I think Power and the Glory and Denim and Leather for me, out of all the 80s albums, are the most consistent start to finish. It's hard to top those albums, really is.
Yes, and best sounding too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Well, we got our number ones on point together.
That was the same. Do you have an honorable mention or two?
An honorable mention or two? Yeah. Let's see. Well, go for yours first. Let me, because I know you mentioned a couple of my honorable mentions already.
Okay.
I was going to throw out. I was going to throw the Inner Sanctum out there, which I like quite a bit.
That would have been mine. That's actually the 5 in a row that I would have picked, from Unleash the Beast into Inner Sanctum, because that's another great album.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Unleash the Beast, Solid Ball of Rock, Metalhead, Killing Ground is actually really good as well. You really can't. The only ones that I think for me are a little on the weaker side is Rock of Nations and Destiny, and they're good. But I think they're a little, and Solid Ball of Rock obviously is moving back in a better direction. Forever Free is decent. But I think, and Dogs of War is pretty good as well. I love the cover on Dogs of War. It's cool one, right? Yeah. But I would say, man, from Unleash the Beast all the way through to Thunderbolt, there's really nothing weak there at all. Into the Labyrinth is really good as well.
I think Inner Sanctum's a little better than Into the Labyrinth, but it's okay. It's enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and neither one of us really, obviously neither one of us picked it, and neither one of us listed an honorable mention, but that's the first album. And like I said, for what it is, I think it's good. It's not an upper echelon Saxon release in mine, but I know people who think this is the best thing they ever did.
No.
Oh, you wait, you'll see it in the comments, I guarantee you.
Serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
They've totally not gone into their groove yet, their mojo.
No, and it's good, but it's top shelf Saxon, not quite.
It's okay. It's like you're saying. It's like putting Lonesome Crow up there with Blackout or Taken by Force or something. It's just not. It's the beginning part. It's the creative process. They're not in the groove yet.
Yeah, good for what it is, right? But
cool for what it is, exactly.
Yeah. I remember when this came out and I saw that cover. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I was kind of like, yeah.
And then you saw what was the song title? Party Till You Puke?
Yeah.
Yeah, not very good.
No.
Not
that's look at the time when it came out, right?
Yeah.
Saxon just trying to fit in and figure out, all right, do we keep up with all these young party animal bands, or what do we do here?
And then Destiny after got way too heavy with the keyboards, way too much keyboards.
Yeah. Which, that's not really Saxon's thing. A lot of bands can do that and do it very well, but, for Saxon to do that, not really your thing, guys. So,
exactly.
So, Cool. Well, that was fun, and it just makes you want to go and sign off here and go listen to Saxon, right? That's what it's all about.
I think I'm going to go back and listen to the first one again and see if I get a new appreciation for it.
I mean, it's good. It's just it's just not it's not very polished at all for them, and it's
No.
just it's very very raw, and yeah, it's early Saxon. It's kind of bluesy metallic. Your comment was spot on, because it reminds me, not that it sounds like it, but it reminds me of kind of where Priest was with Rock-a-Rolla. That's really it's just there's some cool stuff on there, some cool ideas, but they're not quite Saxon yet. The Saxon we would know and love.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So the lesson learned here today, boys and girls, is listen to new Saxon just like you listen to old Saxon. It's just as good.
Yep. The Saxon universe did not end with Crusader, everybody.
It did not. It sure did not.
Yeah. So I want to thank Rich Catino for joining me here today to talk about some great Saxon albums, and we're both curious to see. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure. Rich will be back in a couple days, because actually he is going to help me out rank the albums of Extreme. I
can't wait.
I'm gonna kind of put him on the spot, not you, but I'm gonna put our viewer on the spot. So one of our loyal viewers for the last 2 months must have asked me 50 times in the comments of every single video, please rank the Extreme catalog. Please rank the Extreme catalog, over and over and over again. And, I mean, it's not that I don't like Extreme, because I do. Yeah. But it's like when you have a million things to do, right? You can't do everything, right? So finally, after the last time he asked, I'm like, oh, all right. I'm going to do Extreme. So I've been re-listening to the albums the other day, and then you and I were chatting, and I was like, do you like Extreme? And he's like, hell yeah. I'm like, all right, there we go. That'll make it fun.
Why it's cool too, because when we did the stream on Metal Asylum for the Am I Evil graphic novel that we're doing.
Yep.
One of the guys was on there, and he was talking about posts we had at the Metal Asylum Facebook page. So he goes, I was going through the news and stuff, and he said, I went back and I revisited that Warrant album that you posted about, Dog Eat Dog. And he said, I forgot how great it was. And that goes along the lines with ranking the Extreme albums, because everybody, counts out so many of these bands that they're just, pop metal hits and ballads and MTV videos, but there's so much that's on their albums that's not what you're expecting from a hit like Cherry Pie or something. And if you listen to Dog Eat Dog, it's totally not Cherry Pie. It's like Extreme. If you listen to Three Sides Terry Story, it's like listening to a Queen album almost.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and not to get ahead of ourselves here, but I will say that if all you know about Extreme is More Than Words and Wholehearted,
you're grossly misled.
Yeah, I mean that quite frankly, that didn't do the band. I know they made a lot of money off of those singles, but in the long run, that didn't do them any favors.
Yeah. But we'll
get into that over the weekend. So, so Rich is coming back on Sunday for ranking the 5 studio albums of Extreme with me. That'll be good, because rather than me just do a 8-minute show on 5 albums, we now can double it and really get into talking about Extreme and all these great songs on these albums. That's
awesome.
So that'll be coming up on Sunday, everybody. So stay tuned. Meanwhile, between now and then, we want to see everybody's ranking for Saxon. So give us your top 10, your top 5, your top 15. You want to do all 20-something, go right ahead, whatever you want to do. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer. We all hear and love these albums differently. So curious to see what everybody's putting down on their list. So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. If you like what you see, please hit the Ko-Fi link below. Buy us a coffee, a tea, a pint of beer, whatever it is you want. And Rich, you got any links you want to share with everybody before we let them go?
Metal Asylum Facebook page. There's metalasylum.net. The Metal Hall of Fame I write for. I always write for bravewords.com. And we're working the Am I Evil graphic novel based on the Diamond Head song as well, too. So very busy with 3 or 4 different things, a little at a time, plus doing your show from time to time, which is great. So add that to the list. I love it.
Got to keep busy these days, right? What else do we have to do, right?
Well, right. There's the pandemic, so we got to make good use of the time, right?
Yeah, you know what? Screw the pandemic. We're just going to talk music for the rest of the days.
And thanks to your viewers, too, for welcoming me and letting me share my opinion and maybe my stubbornness or my sarcasm. It's all good.
There you go. There you go. All right, great. So that's a wrap, everyone. For Rich Catino, I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.